Okay, so I want to talk about stagnant water. Okay, I was walking last night, and I was also walking this morning, and I was looking at the trees, and I see like ancients. I see ancients. Like sometimes I'll see them, and they're kind of like okay. I'll try to put it down like this. They're like this. It's like I see them, and they're kind of like sitting like this, or sometimes they're like this, and they're just kind of like, they're kind of like just looking. And whenever I see them, and I can see the face, it's like I recognize them, so I smile or my eyes light up, and then I notice that the wind kind of moves them, so it's almost like I see like their eyebrows and stuff moving and their face moving, and it's almost like they're laughing or they're happy that I noticed them. And I try to look at where the branches are going, like which way the branches are going, because sometimes I think they're trying to tell me to look at something else. So I'll actually like notice where the hand is going, and I noticed they were pointing to a stream because there's a stream right across the road over there. And they were like, what do you see? And I said, I see a brook, a creek. And they're like, what do you see over there? And I said, stagnant water. And it was like this moment of understanding. When people retire, um, they, things like dementia and things like, is it Alzheimer's? Alzheimer's. These things, to me, they don't feel very natural. It doesn't feel like a very natural thing to happen. It almost seems like it's like a learning tool, but it's also sort of a degeneration process because you're not moving your mind pockets. And I've been learning this on my own because I stopped doing what I was doing to do this kind of mission, to uncover these things that happen, and we can't understand them. We just try to figure out why it happens. So I'm realizing that when I don't keep my mind busy, when I have idle hands, when I don't do something, you know what I mean? When I don't talk it out like I am now, I tend to think and worry too much. Like I tend to think and worry, and that's just not the way it's supposed to be. Um, so what I'm saying is that uh, by talking it out and by changing your mind pockets, like by just doing whatever your heart says. Um, if something doesn't feel comfortable, then do something else. And I think that's what it is. It's like stagnant water happens when you don't just do it. When you don't just move when you feel like you should move. When you don't, I don't know what it is exactly, but it feels uncomfortable. It feels uncomfortable to not be constantly challenging your mind, challenging your body. When you don't challenge things, when you don't, well, okay, not like aggressively. I feel like just by speaking your mind, just by speaking your mind and being positive and, those things make a big difference. Even though I don't have all the answers about about water, about why these molecules and why the just the active thought of positivity, by the action of positivity, by looking at something that seems negative like death and cannibalism and saying, okay, well, now hold on a minute, why is this uncomfortable? Just by changing your mind, by looking at the other side of it, I feel like you change the structure. You change some sort of structure in your own mind, your own body, in your own environment. You literally change everything just by realizing that, why can't I do that? Why can't I do that? Why not? Why? Well, what is the issue here? Because underlying everything is positivity. And it's like you have to challenge yourself when you find something that makes you uncomfortable, or you find something that makes somebody else uncomfortable. It's like, you know, instead of just sweeping it under the cellular rug, you gotta really, you gotta dig deeper in there. You gotta dig deeper in it, because I was having like, I don't know. I always wonder about like ants. I talk about this in the other one about ants and like what they actually feel when, you know, we step on the ground and we step on an ant. I always wonder, like, what does the ant experience? And I talk about that in a few of my first videos about like the event horizon in a black hole, and how I don't think it would be like immediate. It would be like a change, you know, that would be semi-fast, but you know what I mean? It wouldn't be like bam bam. And then I was thinking about my ma and how I witnessed her, like, I guess the best way I can describe it is degrade. You know, like her systems were failing, like, you know, she was in the ICU and they had all kinds of machines hooked up to her, and it was like I was watching her body degrade. But I knew intuitively that everything was all working upstairs, you know what I mean? Like, even though maybe something was happening to her body, I knew intuitively that it just wasn't exact. It wasn't. I was seeing something that other people weren't seeing. I was feeling something that other people weren't feeling intuitively. So I had a dream I had a dream a couple days ago, and my mom was talking to me about Schrodinger's cat. Now, Schrodinger's cat is, you know, you put a cat in a box, right? And you put, I think, I don't remember exactly what it is, but it's like you put a cat in a box, a live cat, and then you put like a poison in there, and it's like set to release at a certain time or something like that, right? You put the poison in there, and the cat's in there, the box is closed, time passes when the poison should be released, and you don't open the box up, like, say, Pandora's box, right? And it's like you now have the duality of saying, oh, the cat's alive or the cat is dead, you know? And it's like, you know, when I look at life and death, I look at it and say, well, yeah, the picture changes, but I know that everything that makes up that figure that you saw is still living, because it's an atom. And even if you were to split an atom, you'd still have all the little pieces that work together with that. And we see in nature, we see everything balances out. Like when you go to chemistry, everything constantly balances each other out. Like it always works through the system. It always balances out. And it doesn't have to be told how to balance. It doesn't have to be, nothing has to actually, you don't even have to think about it. You know what I mean? Like, you just gotta know. It's like you just know that it balances out. So when I think of other realms, and I just realized this, I think today, is that she was telling me about Schrodinger's cat, because I was there. I took leave from Afghanistan to go see her in a ICU and then the hospice, and you know, for 28 days I stayed there. I had they got me like a blow-up bed, and I ended up eating her meals because she couldn't eat any food. And I just stayed there. I just stayed there every single day. I stayed there. I was there all the time. And I would only break like every couple of, you know, few days to take a shower, and then I'd come right back. And it was like, it didn't matter that she had edema, where her body was filling up with fluids. Like, none of that mattered, because I could see her spirit was totally there, even if the picture didn't look right. And when she said Schrodinger's cat, I found it really interesting, because she knows that I know, you know, that's something that I know about. And even though she never talked about it, she just knows that that's what I know about. And the fact that I left, you know, after 28 days, she was still in hospice. And it was like, you know, the doctors were constantly telling me, like, I don't know why her blood work's getting better. It's like, one of the doctors even said to me, I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but I think we might be in miracle country. Like, he literally said that to me. And he's like, and I don't know if I've ever said that more than once. And I was like, wow, you know, like, maybe just the powerful tool of positivity and love and TLC, you know what I mean? Like, maybe that's the ticket. And you know, then I went from you know, it was in Arizona, and that's where she was in the hospice. And I went back to Afghanistan after 28 days, and then she passed on literally 4 days from the day that I left the hospice to getting it to Afghanistan. And it was like she ended up passing away during a mission of mine, so I couldn't even call because I was trying to call every day. And I didn't find out until the next day when I got back to the camp that I resided in, you know, coming back from the mission. And they had said, oh, no one told you, she passed on last night, which was the night that I was out on mission. So it was like I didn't really have any actual verification because I didn't see it with my own eyes. So yes, it sounds crazy to say that, but I'm finding more and more that there's something about geolocations, and there's something about pressure. There's something about frequencies. You know, I can see the soup that we walk through. I can see that stuff that we walk through, and I see light bodies. I see bigger insects, and I see, you know, I see a lot of stuff. I see all kinds of stuff in this stuff that we move through. And what I'm realizing is that, you know, just like the way I think of PTSD, it's like people have these flashbacks, right? And they're there. You know, you can tell them all day long that's not real, but I think what happens is they have a trigger that makes a chemical reaction in their brain that literally does something, and then that's what they see, you know? It's that flight or fight response that's immediately sent to your eyeballs, and then you project it into your current reality, and that's where you are. But it's just a frequency. Like, even though you see that their body is there, they're seeing something totally different. And I think that might be the key. Like, that might be the difference. To Schrodinger's cat is like, if you think that they're not here, then you're not going to see it. But if you know that they're somewhere, because everything recycles, you know? Just because it might look different doesn't mean that it's not there. I think that's the powerful tool of cellular memory, is that we are constantly talking to each other. So I know she's there, and she's constantly guiding me. And I can hear all of my other family members and friends that have passed on, and they talk to me in dreams as well. And it's like, of course they're still there. Of course there are other dimensions, but it's frequencies. They are frequencies. And it's like, you just gotta look around. I mean, you never know, you know? Like, I don't have all the answers to that, you know? But, you know, dreams are so prominent in history, in ancient philosophy, and several I mean, you know, so many people have dreams about, like, prophetic things, like things that are going to happen in the future. Or, I mean, you can go to YouTube right now and just see, like, all these different things that people see in their dreams, and it's like, there's got to be something about that makes a difference. You know, I'm starting to think that with enough pressure, like how I wonder what an ant sees when this happens. You know, science tells us that the energy field, it's like they never actually touch because there's an energy field that protects them. But with enough pressure, it's like combustion. It's kind of like combustion, or like, that's kind of the way that I look at it, is like you just you transform their energy into something else. So I'm kind of wondering if, like, something happens in certain geological locations, and maybe that's why I was so sensitive to it when I went on my road trip, to, like, different pressures. You know, I can literally feel it in my own heart, like these pressures, very, very sensitive to frequencies. And it's like, maybe it's like certain kinds of pressure of another realm, another dimension coming in, or we're ascending into, and it looks the way that it does, but it just looks that way in that frequency. And since I didn't actually see my mom pass away, I know she is somewhere, and I know that we replicate. I know we do. I mean, we can see people in history and see people now and say, wow, they look awfully similar. I mean, there's a clear recycling of that atom that was just so strong, that was like the cellular memory was so in tune and so connected that it literally replicated itself again. I think that's kind of amazing. Um, so I guess I just wanted to talk about that because I think that's a very interesting perspective that, you know, even though it looks the way that it does here, that my mom passed away, I mean, what if it's something else? What if, I mean, you never know. You know, you never really know until you just do something different. If you just do something different, it's like it changes the whole system. And that's like the whole point of following your heart, is like saying, oh, you know, you'll never bring the two worlds, the two or three worlds, like how many ever worlds there are. There's no way you'll ever connect again until you die. Well, what if dying isn't anything like that? Like, what if it looks like this to somebody else on a different dimension? And, you know, maybe all that movement that I was doing with the geological locations, going from Connecticut to Arizona and back, with all that pressure that I felt and all that crazy, like, you know, I said it was almost like I was breathing water or something. I'm kind of wondering if, like, I literally was changing my own frequency so quickly that it looks like death in another, it looks like crazy. Like, maybe it looked like what I saw happen to my ma in a lower frequency or something, a different frequency. And maybe I literally passed, you know, maybe I died like 7 times or something like that just on that trip, because I felt so much pressure everywhere that I went. And then I came home and I felt better. So I'm wondering if, like, all these things are happening is because the pressure, the frequency is changing, and it feels like pressure, you know, and it just feels different, and it looks the way that it does, but what's really happening is we're just changing frequency. Because sometimes I'll be like walking around and I'll feel pressure. I'll feel a lot of pressure right here, and it's like it makes me want to cave my chest in to protect my heart. And it's like I will hear people crying all around me, and I'm like, what is that? And then, you know, my mom's like, well, you know, you can feel a pressure in your heart, right? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, well, you're probably experiencing like an older frequency that's trying to move to another frequency. And I'm like, oh, I didn't, you know. And that's when I started making other connections. I was like, wow, you know, I never really thought about that. Because, you know, like I said, I don't have all the answers, but I thought that was really interesting. It's these things that we already know, but it's like, I guess since I physically, mentally, visually experience these things, I can now hear those words and say, oh, wow, that's interesting. Yeah, so that's all I have to share for now. So let me know if you have anything to add to that. I'm pretty interested in other people's ideas. So thank you for watching.